All right, welcome to the New York Giants Rush Draft Show. I'm Dan, hosting tonight. I'm with my main man, Mike the Truth NYG. How's it going tonight, Mike?
It's going good. We had a little bit of difficulty there, but
Yeah, well, we
but
prevailed.
hopefully, yeah, we prevailed. Hopefully, the guys saw my message and they'll come and join us. We got a pretty good topic tonight. Something that we most of us overlook, but I think it's a very important two positions that I think the Giants need to draft.
Right. And before we start with that, we're also going to have Kyle Linderman come on, talk draft with us. He's from Roto Bowler. So it's going to be fun talking ball from a fantasy standpoint with Kyle.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the D tackles and DEs before Kyle gets on. So for a Giants standpoint, I really think it's really important for us to really talk about these positions because we are really pretty much light on both situations because we have both Dex and Leo playing over 95% of the snaps the last couple of years. So we really need to add the depth in defensive tackle and obviously DE. So would you agree with me on the standpoint of like it's not the most important need, but in fact it is the need that we should look into it in the middle rounds, or if someone falls to us in either the earlier rounds that no one would expect to fall to us?
Yes, I do. I think that this is two positions that again aren't on many Giant fans' priority on the top level, but when you look at where the Giants last year, how they had gave up, I think, 148 yards against the rush, and then they also gave up or had limited sack production.
Right.
I think they have to address that. Now they did when they got the linebacker out of the Colts,
Okereke.
Okereke.
That's the way I'm going with it today.
Yeah, that works for me. I think he's a fine addition, and we still don't know if they're going to do something different with the other inside linebacker. Of course, we have Beavers coming back, but again, he's going to be kind of a rookie this year because he missed all of last year. So, but I definitely think we have some need along the defensive line, and I think we got some good candidates here that we picked that could be there for the Giants in the later rounds or late day two.
Okay, so start off. You could start off, and then we'll go
Okay.
down by each player. So you want to start with the defense interior guys?
Yeah, let me go defense tackle. First guy, of course, the first number one top defensive tackle and arguably the best non-quarterback prospect in this draft is Jalen Carter. Now, Jalen Carter out of Georgia, excuse me, he is a massive man who can move very well for his size, and he would probably be the first non-quarterback off the board if not for the incident that happened during I believe it was during the championship week, wasn't it? When that happened with the car incident,
it was actually after. It was
it
after
was the combines.
No, it was after like the celebration of everything. Like it was like a couple of days after.
Okay. I think that it will hurt him, but I still think he's a top 10 pick. The kid again can collapse the pocket. He can make a lot of tackles behind the line of scrimmage. He's a disruptive force for any team who gets him. And like every Georgia prospect that comes out, especially along the defensive line, these guys, they move so well for their size. It's unbelievable, the talent that Georgia gets every year.
Right. So
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like it's obviously just as like the same tier. They're obviously back-to-back champions. It's like a typical ACC, no SEC, just a powerhouse. Every year they just stockpile every week. So yeah, that's a main guy. Obviously with the Giants, he's gonna be long gone before we even think about it, unless some crazy news pops up about it. So the other fun guy is Clancy from Pitt. That's another name that everybody's been talking about of like, all right, if he was like 50 pounds, like 10 to 15 pounds heavier, he would be in no doubt about it. First round. People are claiming because he went to Pitt, he's basically Aaron Donald, A lot of people are disagreeing with that. Obviously, I'm one of them with that.
Well, it's unfair to do that for the kid.
Yeah,
First of all,
yeah, absolutely, definitely unfair as well. But like, it's just really one of those things. Just like he has what he could bring to the table at his size and stuff. Will teams take that chance on him? So, I I've seen mocks. I've seen mocks going like from here to there of like, is he going to make it out of the first round, or is he going to be a top 10 pick, top 15 pick, all those other things. So, um, what do you think about it, Clancy?
I think he's a talented player. I think he can. I think he certainly has risen his stock, and I can definitely see him being a between 20 and 30 pick in the first round. Again, it depends on which team feels that he is the player that they like to have on their interior defensive line. I think, like I just said, I think it's unfair that they're comparing him to Aaron Donald, mostly because of the same college and the same body type.
Right.
But I think this kid's a good player. I don't see a fit for him with the Giants, mostly because of the draft position. I don't think it would be a good move for the Giants to take him at 25.
Right. I don't think so either, just because of what other needs we have. It's definitely one of those needs, just like, all right, yeah, it would be obviously a nice thing to have, but obviously there's other things that we have to really focus on before we go there. But he was a junior. He's 6'1", 281. He had 30 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 7 sacks this year, and he played 11 games. So,
right. And also, you got to remember, I think this is his first year fully starting. So,
right.
How much playing time has he's gotten in this year's junior year. So it's going to be a learning development curve for him once he gets drafted by whichever team takes him.
Right. So, what player do you want to focus on next?
Anybody, just throw it at me. It doesn't matter.
Okay. What about Mazie Smith from Michigan? He might be a realistic guy, maybe for us, maybe down a round or two.
Yeah. Mazie Smith is a really good player. I did a lot of video watching on him some games, and he's a big guy. He's 330 plus, and he moves pretty well for a guy his size. He has good feet. I mean, I watched him in his videos. He had very good leverage when he got off the line of scrimmage, and he has really good active feet. He doesn't lumber like you would think a guy at that size. Kind of reminds me of how well Dexter Lawrence moves for his size.
Right.
And
he has that big cat look.
Yeah, and I think I have a feeling that because he did pretty well in the combine, I think he's going to go too early for us in round 2. I think he'll be gone before 57. So, unfortunately, he's a good player. That's what happens. We're not going to draft everybody, the Giants, but I think he's a good player. I think it's a good chance he could be a top 50 pick.
Okay. So, all right, that's a couple of guys there. Hold on. All right. So let's talk about the Clemson situation with Bryan Bresee. So he's another interesting story that a lot of people like him. He's 6'6", 298. He had 15. He only played 10 games. He didn't have a lot of tackles. He had 15 tackles, 5 for a loss, and 3.5 sacks this year. So talk to me about Bryan Bresee.
Okay, Bryan Bresee, he is a kid who you see the talent, you see it's there, but I get worried sometimes, and I watched him on film. It looked like he took a couple of plays off.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he needs to get, he has to get motivated. That worries me if I was a scout. If I was watching him and I saw that would concern me. But when he wants to play, he could be a destructive player. He penetrates well. He moves very well for his size. He looks like he put more weight on, but he's still a big boy. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But there's a kid who can go late first, so he can go somewhere in the second round. Depends. It's so weird how the draft, what can happen, how teams view a certain prospect, and we see every year that happens to somebody.
Right.
They fall into the second round, and they were on many mock drafts going in round 1. We saw for the Giants, the last 2 Giants drafts, We've had guys who made it to the second round that weren't supposed to be there.
Right.
So I think this kid could be one of those as well.
No, definitely. That's a good way of putting it because we had Aziz last year, 2 years ago, and we had Wandell last year. So,
Well, don't forget X-Man, right?
oh yeah,
Xavier.
and yeah, in 2020 we had McKinney
Yeah.
as well. So it's really the last 3 drafts if you really look about it. I wouldn't really say Wandell because we actually it was more of a trade back and he was still there. They really liked him. But didn't we trade back twice last year?
Yeah, we
I
did.
remember.
We traded back twice. Yeah, I remember that day. We were all expecting a corner in round 2.
Right. And then we got Wandell.
Right.
I remember Craig not liking it, obviously because of his size, but well, he had the production in Kentucky, so that's that with that. So here's another one before we wrap up when we go to DEs. How do you pronounce this guy's name? I have somewhat of a trouble with.
Saika Ika.
Yes, Ika.
Well,
yes.
I got remember I'm doing one more guy after that. We're doing 6.
Oh yeah, that's right. I apologize.
This guy is a pure bulldozer. All right. This is a guy who is just going to be a 2-gap run stuffer.
Right.
Okay. When he was with Baylor, that's what he did, and he did it well. He controlled the middle part of the line. He covered each hole on each side of the center, and he did a great job. So teams had a hard time running inside against Baylor because of this guy. You're not going to get 3 downs out of him. He is not a 3-down player, and he shouldn't be a 3-down player. He has no pass rushing skills at all.
Right.
And that's fine. So that could weigh in on teams drafting. I don't see a first-round pick with him because of that.
Right.
I see him going somewhere mid to late second. And again, I always say this, it all depends the first 50 picks, who goes, which what's going to happen. Certain positions, maybe 2, that gets a run on them, and I think quarterback's going to be that position in the first, in the top 50.
I'm with you on that as well.
So we're going to see some guys who are talented fall, and this kid could be one that's going to fall in the late second, mid to late second. Who knows? He could go round 3.
All the comps are saying he's like Vita Vea from the Buccaneers, and
that's fair. That's a fair one.
Like a Snacks Harrison type of player that
right.
He's just going to clog up the middle and hopefully become a all pro, and just be that 2-down stuffer in the running game, and then everybody's
nothing
like,
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with
you
that.
Need
right?
it. You need it. So who's your last player?
I left it out for you on surprise. The kid, a Canoe Benton out of Wisconsin.
Yeah,
okay, I watched this kid. He reminds me a lot of BJ Hill.
Okay.
Okay.
I like BJ Hill.
Yeah, he could penetrate. He can give you a few sacks. He had 4.5 sacks last year. He's very good against the run. And here's a kid who could be there in late 3, even in the 4th round. And I think that's a kid that if he's there in round 4, the Giants could grab him if he's there at pick what is it, 128 for the Giants?
I believe so, something along.
Yeah, he could be there. And would I be upset with that? Not at all. Not at all. I think this kid is a good player. He could play 3 downs for you. And I'll be very happy if they get a guy like that because they need him. They need guys who could play against the run. Again, right now, the roster we have, we don't know. This is not a complete roster. We were hoping that they get Deshaun. Who was that? Deshaun.
The guy from the Rams.
Anderson. Deshaun.
Yeah. K something. I'm drawing a big blank right now.
Yeah. We were hoping that he would be coming aboard. We don't know. That could still happen because he hasn't signed with anybody else yet.
Yeah, he's still on the market. So
okay. So, but we're going with the assumption that he's not currently or will not be a Giant. So this is a nice, good draft pick in the 4th round. If the Giants see him there, and listen, I would like to have him because I think we get a kid like a BJ Hill ability with us to rotate with Dexter and with Leo. I think that would be a very good plus for the Giants, and that would definitely help us against the run.
No, definitely. So out of those players that we just talked about, hypothetically speaking, like we mentioned, if the Giants happen to, for whatever reason, went for interior lineman, out of those 6 guys, what would you rank them?
Well, I'm just going by, and again, we always talk about need and best player available. That war,
Right.
we try to figure out. The Giants. If you look at priority, we talk about wide receiver, we talk about cornerback, we talk about center. Those are the top 3 positions.
Mhm.
Everybody on Twitter is talking about, and rightly so, because those are the positions we really lack, I think, in depth, talent, and ability. So
Right.
I would say, with that being said, I would say the guy I just spoke about, I think Canu Benton would be probably the most logical. Of course, he's
Right.
not the most talented. Carter
Mhm.
is, but we're not getting Carter.
Right.
And we're not getting Smith either. So I think that would make the most sense, especially if he falls in round 4, which could happen with a lot of players getting pushed back
Right.
in the draft. So I think that would be the most logical one. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Like I think you're right with Ben, because like we mentioned before, there's wide receiver help that we need, cornerback help we need, a center/guard help we definitely need. So interior
Right.
alignment is something like we could definitely like focus into more on the 4th, 5th, 6th, and even 7th round. That we would be like, all right, we need a guy that we can grow for the next 4 years, and then if he becomes something, he becomes something. So
Yeah, and
I don't think this position is the move that we were like, all right, let's steal this guy because the rest of the team is ready to go for being a perennial championship team kind of thing. You know what I mean?
right.
So,
And I personally think, even though my first mock draft, I didn't do this, but of course I'm going to have another mock draft. I have a feeling now, I think we're going to see 2 corners, 2 wide receivers, and 2 linemen taken, 2 interior linemen taken in this draft. I
I
did do
could
that.
see it. We have 10 picks, so there's no reason not to double up on certain spots, especially
And we could have
especially
more if he
yeah,
trades back. Right?
right. Of course, there's always
We
that
don't
option.
know. We don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. So, in the background, we actually have Kyle here. We're gonna bring him on. And then
Oh, good.
we'll bring in the talk about the ends and stuff and
Okay.
other things that Kyle may want to talk about draft wise. All right. Hey Kyle, how's it going tonight?
Hey, good man. How about yourself?
Doing great. So this is Mike. This is Kyle, and
Hey,
I'm
Kyle.
Dan. Nice. How's it going tonight?
Yeah, good man. We're 2 weeks out. Getting excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, it's so close. It's the funnest time of the year. So we were just going through some defensive tackles with the Giants. Really isn't the biggest need, but it's something we could focus on later in day 3, unless someone falls completely in day 2, which we would be shocked about. So, what do you think about this year's the interior defensive line class this year?
You know what? I mean, I love Jalen Carter, and I
Right.
do love Brian Bresee. He really wouldn't be a need for you necessarily, but maybe a guy at 25 I might consider. Like, he was a top recruit. He was awesome his freshman year. He was kind of down this year. His sister died from brain cancer.
Oh,
Just
wow.
tragically. Yeah. And I believe he had a couple of injuries himself, and he actually put on some weight. So he really wasn't, at his normal playing weight this year. So he is a guy I really like. I think he's being knocked down a little too far on the draft board that he should be. But I don't really think you guys are probably going to go defensive tackle at 25. I've kind of got you pegged for corner.
Right.
Is what I've had.
That's what I have.
I did kind of have you going receiver before they signed a bunch of guys. I was, some people have mocked Zay Flowers to the Giants, and I'm like, I like Zay Flowers. I feel like if you're going to get a receiver, it kind of needs to be more of an X guy, kind of bigger.
Right.
I feel like you guys got a lot of slot guys on the roster.
Our whole roster, other than Slayton, basically slot.
Yeah, Kyle, I had that same discussion last week with the crew. They love Jay Flowers, and look, he's a talented player, no doubt about it. But I agree with you. I think he just fits the mold of a slot guy, even though he's played outside and at Boston College. I just still see a fit need for him with the Giants, even though he does have talent.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, Kevin McWalters actually has a good theory. If Leo is not a long-term in the long-term plans, DT might be very early. So actually, he's not wrong, but it obviously, like we mentioned before, the Giants have so many holes that unfortunately you have to sacrifice the D tackle before having to address the wide receiver or the cornerback situation. But Kevin, you're right with the Leo situation, but I think at some point you have to like sacrifice one position, and I unfortunately think it might be D tackle. Do you guys agree with that or disagree with that? Or like, what do you guys think?
I think you kind of need someone that kind of fits your scheme, because you guys typically run an odd front, so you're not typically going to have your 4-3, defense like the Giants defensive tackles of old, right? Osi Umenyiora, Justin Tuck, those guys that kind of more pass rushers. Your edge guys,
correct,
kind of are more cloggers, so kind of hard to say. I don't disagree with him. I was actually pulling up Leonard Williams' contract. I know he's got a pretty hefty cap hit for next year.
Yeah, it's actually insane.
But yeah, they could get off the books in 2024 for like a little over $5 million in dead cap. So whoever made that comment in the chat, Kevin, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would think that if somebody falls into the second round, like a Maxie Smith, like that guy, I don't think he's going to be there. But if he falls there, it could be an option,
No, yeah, I definitely think that as well. So yeah, let's see. So Leo, hold on. Yeah, Leo this year what was his cap hit? Oh, yeah, this year is $32 million. So that's why the Giants are trying their hardest to find a way to bring that cap down for his cap hit this year.
But help me out here. Do they have to restructure or can they extend? Do they have both options?
From everything I read and looked up, I'm pretty sure they can do both. I wouldn't see why they couldn't do both. Someone in the chat could probably correct me if I'm wrong there.
Because if they do that, Kyle, then he wouldn't be off the books after 2024, would he? They would have to give him another year, right?
But you're probably going to extend Dexter Lawrence pretty soon.
Well, yeah, especially with the news of him holding out for the involuntary camp next week. It's looking that route.
I think the good news is, you'll probably be able to get Adoree Jackson off the books after this year.
Well, yeah, he's the only guy. He's one of the few corners on the books for the next year if they don't cut him. So it's looking like this might be the last year for Adoree unless he's...
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that scenario after we get through these guys, definitely. Because I agree with Kyle with the cornerback for the Giants in round one.
Yeah, you could always try to unite the Ojulari brothers, but I don't think the other one kind of fits your scheme.
Yeah, that would be a fun.
He might go to Philly.
That would be an interesting rivalry.
I'll give you a name, Siaka Ika's kid from Baylor.
Yeah, we actually just mentioned him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's a good 2-down guy. That's just
he's definitely a run stuffer, that's for sure.
Maybe even kind of this Gervin Dexter from Florida. I think the knocks on him have kind of been he's a little slow getting off the snap, but could be someone. My latest mock, I actually had you guys going Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver from TCU.
Okay, yeah, I actually liked him a lot.
You think he'll make it by 25?
You know what? There's been so many mixed reviews on him, and I was talking about that today. That he's 6'3", like 208, but he plays. I made the joke. I said that Quentin Johnston plays like he's Zay Flowers size, and Zay Flowers plays like he's Quentin Johnston size.
Right? Yeah. That's really funny, and it's unfortunately true. But I think I mentioned on Monday night's show that I think I would run to the podium if he was on the board. So I'm gonna stick with that because he can't teach the size. Hopefully, he would be able to be a little bit more physical and grabbing the ball and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree with you on that. That would be huge because it's funny if you just reading everybody's mocks, he's either in the top 15 or he's not even in the first round. So it's just like this just seems what the the wide receiver class is this year. It's like
I'll tell you this: mixed bag. If he's available, that means we had a big run on cornerbacks.
Corner,
yeah. A lot of cornerbacks went off the board in the round for the Giants pick.
Right. So, Truth, we want to go through defensive ends with
Yeah. Well, let's talk about probably the first defensive end slash edge
Okay.
coming off the board, and that's Tyree Wilson
Okay.
Out of Texas Tech. What do you think about him, Kyle?
You know, he would actually be the first Big 12 defensive player drafted in the top 10 since the Browns took Justin Gilbert 9 overall, and I believe it was 2014.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
that league is not really known for their defense. So yeah.
He's kind of a bigger guy. He's 6'5", 270. You know, I was kind of excited to see him at the Senior Bowl. He kind of backed out at the last minute. He didn't run, at the combine because I don't know if it was a hamstring or if it was an oblique. He kind of had one of them. You know, he's a player that I'm definitely intrigued by. You know, there kind of have been some murmurs that the Cardinals and possibly the Texans would be more interested in him than Will Anderson, which is a little crazy to me because I just feel like Will Anderson is just ready to play right away. You know, but I think we saw last year with the Jaguars going Trayvon Walker first overall. I think teams and front offices have kind of changed their thinking. They're kind of drafting you for what they're projecting your ceiling to be.
Yeah, and that's exactly right with Wilson. I saw the same thing. I saw them think that he could be a higher ceiling than Will Anderson.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a guy that I really like. I mean, it seems inevitable that he's not going to go top 5. You know, like I said, he was dealing with a little bit of injury last year, but didn't really have a ton of talent around him. So he's kind of a guy, always getting double teamed, always the focus.
So yeah, so I'm gonna just read off just the basic stats from him last year. He played in 10 games, 61 tackles, 14 for a loss, and 7 sacks. So, couple of people are the people I've been reading compare him to Clowney from the Texans and all the other teams he's been on recently. I guess the most recent was the Browns, right?
Yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney. So, that's a big name, especially coming out of college, because in college he was one of the most feared defensive ends.
Yeah, I think he'll be better than him. Be honest with you, I think he will. I think he will. He could play with his hand in the dirt. He could play in a 2-point stance. Okay. I think the kid does have a big ceiling, high ceiling.
And I know kind of from how Joe Schoen evaluates, he's not really thinking in terms of sacks. He's looking in terms of hurries and pressures.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It looks like he did have 50 total pressures last year.
Pretty impressive.
That's very impressive.
32 hurries and 10 hits on the quarterback.
Wow. There you go.
And let's be realistic. He probably was double teamed a lot.
Yeah.
Playing on Texas Tech.
Right.
So
Texas A&M really lost a big one there. It would be interesting to see why it didn't work out at the bigger school. But
yeah, and I apologize for missing the beginning of the segment.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, that's okay. No worries.
You're with us now, so it's all good.
So we both agree he'll be like one of the top 3 non-quarterbacks taken in the draft.
I think that's what's made I got to submit my mock draft by the end of next week into the the entry to kind of see how it stacks up, and I'm like, man, if the Texans don't take a quarterback at 2, like it literally plunges the draft into chaos, and that's probably why the Cardinals haven't traded 3, because they're probably thinking, okay, maybe if something goes down, maybe we'll get a haul, because 2 years ago, the 49ers got 2 future firsts and a future third to move back from 3 to 12, which was, outrageous.
Right.
Right. And teams salivate that, and they'll give up more than they really should looking back on it. But there's always that one team that only takes one team to be like, all right, we'll do it. Screw it. So the next defensive end that I had that is very interesting is Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. So the most interesting thing about him was he wasn't a starter on Iowa. So a lot of people are making that to be the biggest, like, why didn't he start? Was it because of Iowa's weird philosophy of starting the older guys, or was there an underlining thing? So that was it. That just seems weird to me.
Yeah, Iowa was basically an abomination last year, and they've for obviously they're in the Big Ten, but for not being a huge program, they've done a really good job of giving us NFL talent.
Right.
He's a guy that I definitely like. He's a grinder. He's got the size. He's 6'5", 272.
Right.
And he actually was a hockey player. He started playing hockey
So
originally.
he basically
Yep.
went the J.J. Watt and the T.J. Watt way of things, huh?
I want to say when he got there, he was only 240 pounds. He added about 30 to 35 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
Which is not fairly uncommon for college kids. He's someone he tested really, really well. So I don't know if he's really going to be on the board for when you pick. I'm kind of
I don't see it. No,
I don't see it either. I'm just going through the top guys for everybody.
Top 6, yeah.
Top 6 guys, and then if the Giants were to think about it, possibly, but we're just skimming through the top guys of the position, and then we'll break other stuff down. So Van Ness, like it's really interesting to see, like, with someone with that much versatility, like be able to play well, why didn't he start? Well, that still is weird because of their just tradition of not playing younger guys.
From what I understand, Dan, they've always been that way.
Right.
Iowa. So
well, that's why they're Iowa, unfortunately, because if they weren't that going that kind of thing, there's no reason why your best defensive end isn't playing and starting more than some guy who's been on the team for 4 years. But that's just me. So what else do you guys have on him before we move on?
Yeah, Colin, go.
Well, just that, the production isn't necessarily there. The history isn't necessarily there that you're looking for. You're betting on traits. You're betting on, hey, this guy's got a, 4.58 40. His 10-yard split was a 1.57, which is, outstanding. 34-inch arms, 11-inch hands. He's still 21. He's not even 22. So, kind of depends on your, front office philosophy. I think some of the teams really value drafting, 21, even 20-year-old guys over
You're right.
23, maybe even some that are 24, because they're thinking, hey, this guy's got a little more room to grow. I mean, that's just kind of how the NFL is. I mean, you think about how the Giants won their last 2 Super Bowls, right? I mean, you can never have enough edge rushers.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
So Giants defense where they would, have Strahan on the outside, then they would have Omanura on one, and they would move Tuck to play defensive tackle, and there was no guard in the league that could block him.
No, Tuck was the difference on that defensive line. Absolutely.
Right. I'm with you on that, Mike. All right, so here's the fun one. This is a fun one. He's on one of the powerhouses in the country. Unfortunately, they weren't much of a powerhouse this year. And then it's Myles Murphy from Clemson. He seems to be very raw, but for whatever reason, he has his moments. He just doesn't seem to put everything together in pass rushing wise. So can he find that other way to get to the quarterback in the NFL? What do you guys think about Myles Murphy? He's been one of the more talked about prospects of, like, where is he going to fall in between in the top 15? Like, where do you guys see him falling in your mocks so far, since you guys have been doing mocks?
I think he's kind of more of a late riser, because he was a guy that was high, and then, he didn't do a whole lot at the combine, and then Jordan Reed from ESPN had made a report that said he wasn't going to do anything in his pro day because he was still recovering.
Okay.
And then he ended up doing stuff at his pro day, at the last minute, which I think was good. So I think he's kind of rising back up the boards. He's another guy, kind of a, athletic specimen. He's 6'4", almost 265, 268. He ran a 4.53, 159, 10-yard split. So, kind of for, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, edge guys. We're not, yes, the 40 time tells us something, but really what teams are looking at is that 10-yard split.
Yep.
Because, how many edge guys are really running 40 yards downfield? But
no, it's usually isn't it the 10-yard, 15-yard when you really want to be noticed?
So I think he kind of has, I think Dane Brugler was talking about this. He needs a little more tools in his bag. He doesn't really have a ton of moves for his pass rushing, but his hands are good, and I feel like he's probably going to go in the top 20, but you don't know. I mean,
Right.
that would be what 5 edge guys off the board if if it depends if Nolan Smith goes, that would go in the top 20. So
Right. So
Yeah, when you consider, we know full quarterbacks are going early. We know wide receivers and corners, and don't forget offensive tackle. There's going to be a lot of guys going off the board in the first round. So I agree. I think Miles Murphy's going to get picked early, like you said, based on potential. I think
Right.
they're going to see something in him and see what he could be.
I'm with you on that. 'Cause especially the way that he looked really he showed a lot of good flashes with Clemson the last few years. And like you guys were mentioning with age, he's only 21. So that's prime for very young players, and then that a lot of like the Giants are one of them that were like, oh my God, he's a young player, we can mold him, and he has something there to mold, and let's see what he can do because he obviously had a good career at Clemson. So
Yep.
see who's another one. I'm trying to look at my list.
Well,
Nolan Smith.
we already covered him.
Okay.
Yeah, we covered him as an outside linebacker edge.
Okay.
Hey, Dan, why don't you name the guy out of Kansas or Northwestern?
I'm just gonna go AA from Northwestern.
Tamiwa Adabari.
Yes.
Tamiwa Adamari, is that how you pronounce it?
I believe it's Adabari. He's originally, I don't know if he's from, but I think his parents might be from Nigeria. He's an interesting guy because he's not really going to fit your scheme. You'd have to play him on the defensive end in your scheme. He's not going to play in the middle, but
He's going to be on board.
He's 282 pounds. He ran a 4.49 at the combine, which is just unbelievable. Now, his tape was really mixed, that I saw him make plays, but then I saw that he was kind of raw. So initially I kind of had a 3rd round grade on him,
Okay.
but I do see him sneaking up maybe early 2nd round because of how well he tested. I think teams are going to be intrigued.
Yeah. Okay. Another one of those guys, what they think he will be. Yeah. Based on his, he's an interesting guy. He may not have the length because he's 6'2", I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he's pretty stocky at 280. Reminds you of what's his name, Ward on the Giants a little bit physically. Anyway, he looks like him. But I agree with you though. I think he'll be more of a on the edge, defensive end.
Yeah, I think if maybe you were looking to, well, I was going to say Lawrence, but you're going to lock him up. So Williams. I wonder if you're looking to replace Leonard Williams. I'm trying to think of who in this draft would be the guy, and I was thinking maybe Mazi Smith, but I just don't know that he can. I got a name for play him all 3 downs.
I got a name for you if you want to hear it.
Sure.
Canoe Benton from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I've heard some good things.
He collapsed the pocket. He's got a high motor, penetrates. He's a 3-down lineman, I think. And I think he might be a 4th round pick. Again, we don't know how the draft's going to unfold the first 50 picks. So,
yeah, after the 50th pick, then it's a complete crapshoot for that. The next name I'm going to bring up before we can just pretty much do free for all of like what we want to talk about draft wise is Notre Dame defensive end is Isaiah Foskey. He had an interesting career with Notre Dame, obviously becoming the leading sack getter in Notre Dame history, obviously beating Justin Tuck's school record. It just doesn't seem like he has other weapons other than just getting sacks, because all the other secondary stats for a defensive end, they aren't there. So it's going to be interesting to see what team takes a chance on him, especially considering he isn't a complete package yet.
I kind of had him going round 2, maybe towards the end.
Yep.
I believe probably where he's going to go. I just, you just think about, what do we consider a premium position in the NFL right now? Quarterback, obviously. We're saying wide receiver, tackle, edge, corner. I think front offices value those 5 positions probably more than the others. Right. Not to say they won't draft those guys, but if you just look at, guys who go in the first round, more often than not, the majority are coming from those spots. So I'm looking at his, stuff. It looks like he had 33 total pressures, 12 sacks, 18 hurries. So, I mean, maybe would have liked a little bit more production, but again, I'm kind of more 70% offense, 30% defense. I like, I'm trying to dig more into the defensive stuff, but
Right.
I can't say for sure I've watched every Notre Dame defensive snap from
Right,
last
right.
year.
Neither have I, and I like Notre Dame. If I had to pick
Well,
a college,
I
team,
will tell you about this kid that sometimes he takes plays off, and I think that's the knock on him, that he sometimes he doesn't show up, he disappears, but he does have ability. And again, another kid, I think Kyle mentioned second round late. He's going to get picked around there because they see as a potential if the right coaches can work with him. Like you said, he really didn't have anything other than rushing the passer. But he's going to have to develop, have time. He needs to get in the right team where he's not going to get thrust in there. He can, baby steps with this kid. Let him get his feet wet. Let him play under some professionals and see how the game's played. And he'll be a good player, I think. I think he'll be a good player.
Okay. So, by the way,
Dan, I got another guy for you before you go on.
Okay.
You didn't mention him, but I think he's worth mentioning. The kid out of Georgia Tech.
I was actually just about to bring him up.
Okay.
So, the kid from Georgia Tech,
Keon White.
Keon Wright, yes. So he's another one that has all he's missing is some like seasoning type to play with him, and then it's just really like, all right, if he goes to that right team, he's gonna be a guy that everybody's gonna be like, how did we miss him? Kind of player. What do you guys think?
He was actually a converted tight end. So
That's
he
right.
actually
I read that.
he went to Georgia Tech, as a tight end. I had him going 34 to the Cardinals. Kind of feel like they kind of have the worst offensive and defensive line combo in the league right now. He's a little bit slightly older prospect, but he had, 14 tackles for a loss, 7.5 sacks. So teams kind of feel like he's kind of scratching the surface, but like I said, I believe he's 23 already, or he's going to be 23. So
I think so. Yeah.
A little bit older prospect.
He's actually 24 in 2 months.
Wow. Okay.
Right. But again, he probably was the only main guy on that Georgia Tech.
Oh yeah, Georgia Tech was beyond terrible this year.
Again, I think Kyle's nailed it with him about where he's going to go, and again, like every prospect, it depends where you go. The right team, the right fit. If he goes to the right team, right fit, he could be a good contributor for that team.
All right. Yeah. Sorry. So before we wrap up, talk about other fun things about the draft with Kyle. Thanks again, Kyle, for coming on. Thank you for everybody watching. So whoever's watching, please like and rate, review everything on the YouTube. We're trying to build our YouTube to 1K. We're so close from that. So tell your friends and everything about that as well. So Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about other positions that the Giants might go into at 25.
Round one.
Yeah, so I'm actually Marine Corps veteran.
Oh,
and
thank you for your service.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so I actually got some, ties to New York. So my grandmother was actually born in Long Island.
Oh, I'm from Long Island.
Yeah, so. And pretty much all my ancestors came through Ellis Island. So I went to New York, plenty of times as a kid. It's
what part of Long Island do you know? Remember?
I don't.
It's okay.
But New York City is kind of an experience like like nothing else. It's like I remember being the last time I was in Manhattan. I feel like I'm like an ant inside of an ant farm.
Oh yeah.
Like being from the Midwest, you're just like, oh my gosh, there's so many buildings and there's so many people here.
I work in the city, and you could tell the tourists from the everyday people. It is funny, especially this week because it's spring break everywhere. So everybody's coming in droves, and it's really funny to see like the people from all over the world just like
the best way, Dan. The best way to tell they're from New York or not, whoever says hello to you is not from New York, right?
Right.
Oh, I remember people. I had the right of way in Manhattan and a crosswalk, and people almost run me over. I was like,
oh yeah, I always joke with my friends that like you're basically become Brendan Jacobs when you're in the subway and you got to get somewhere to go. You don't care who is in front of you. It could be a 90-year-old woman or a 2-year-old. And it's not right, but for whatever reason, people from here
Yeah.
have to get someplace. They don't care about anybody else, and they got to get to where they got to get to. So,
Yeah.
oh,
I'm
wow.
I'm a Cleveland guy, so it's where
Oh,
I'm
so,
born and
okay.
raised. I live in Northeast Ohio, so not too far. So should have came in and talk some smack. We got the Cavs and the Knicks playing in
Yeah,
the
well,
playoffs.
what do you-
we could
well,
still do
yeah,
that. We got
Should
time.
Give
be
me-
fun.
Who's gonna win that? Give me it right now. Go ahead.
I'll say Cavs in 7.
Yeah, it's funny. I was gonna say Knicks in 7. So
Yeah,
there
I
you
was
go.
gonna say Knicks in 7.
And it's funny because like the Knicks were always so good when I was a kid, and then
Right.
obviously kind of had a bad run. They're almost kind of like the Browns in a way,
yeah, no,
and
they are the NBA version of the Browns. That's a good comparison. So our pain then.
Yeah, but they weren't always the Browns. What I'm saying is the Knicks
No,
were
that's
like
what I'm saying,
the Knicks
yeah.
were a prestigious franchise for a long
Right.
time.
Yes, they
Um,
were.
And
Yep.
kind of sad, Willis Reed passed because I remember, my dad,
Right.
he was such a huge Willis Reed fan, and I remember him, showing me like a VHS tape of like the 1970 or 71 NBA Finals when
Right.
I
Willis
watched
Reed
that game
came
as a kid.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the Knicks beat the Lakers, right, to win
Beat
the
the Lakers,
first
yeah.
championship. So yeah, and there's actually some interesting ties between the Giants and the Browns, obviously, because
Yeah,
Bill-
the 50s and 60s. Yeah.
Bill Belichick, the
that too,
Giants
yeah.
defensive coordinator goes to the Browns, and the Browns had Belichick, they had Nick Saban, and then Ozzie Newsome was director of player personnel, and they just turned it around, and then Art Modell said, "We're moving the franchise to Baltimore," and pulled the plug, and then
Yeah.
obviously the Browns come back reincarnated as an expansion team, but they've been terrible besides 1 year. So, and Ernie Accorsi, he came from the Browns front office before he
Right.
came to the Giants.
And they were
Yeah.
big. They were
And the Colts too. He's there too.
Yeah, the Giants and the Browns were big time rivals in the 50s and 60s as well because they were always
Yeah, Jim Brown, right?
Jim Brown from Long Island.
Yeah.
Jim
as well.
Brown against Sam Huff. That was the
Yeah.
most talked about confrontation back then.
Yeah, I think 58, the Giants versus Colts NFL championship. I think
Right,
many
yeah.
consider
Greatest
the
game
greatest
ever played, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that, and I'm sure you guys already know, but for me, kind of going back through history, was like not realizing that Vince Lombardi was offensive coordinator under Jim Lee Howell, and they had
And
Tom
Landry,
Landry
yeah.
as a defensive coordinator.
It's crazy to think about that.
And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna let you finish. Like, it's crazy that the Giants had arguably three of the top 5 head coaches of all time to be assistant coaches, and none of them became head coaches with the Giants.
Yeah,
That's
but they were
right.
pretty good under Howell, right? They went to the championship 2
Oh
years in a row.
yeah, for sure.
And then Lombardi was kind of getting impatient, and then I think they kind of had one down year, and then I think Howell retired or went to the Howell went to the front office, but by then Landry had gone to the Cowboys and Lombardi had gone to the Packers. So the Giants
always
missed
had
on both of them.
Yeah,
And I think they had Sherman took over, right?
Right, yeah. They always had agreement, and one of the most difficult things with Wellington Mara was not pursuing Lombardi because they always thought Lombardi was going to come back, and then Lombardi was starting to win, and he's like, I can't leave the Packers now.
No, yeah, well, that happens.
Right.
That happens.
Like, I think that was one of Wellington Mara's biggest regrets. I think I heard someone mention that a long time
Especially because Landry played for the Giants. People don't remember that.
Right.
He played for the Giants. He's a pretty good defensive back.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? We got a comment here. The discussion's turned into the National.
Yeah,
Geographic
our
now.
buddy.
Sorry about that. That's my fault. I sent you
No,
guys down
oh,
memory lane.
that's me
Tuna.
too.
Tuna was
I'm
a funny guy. He's
Yeah, I'm a big, I'm a big Brian Daboll fan. I think, think about where the Giants are compared to where they were 12 months ago.
Oh yeah,
You know?
big difference.
And I've always been big on Daniel Jones. I always thought that he was better than what people thought he was. He was kind of
Yep,
just in a
me
really
too.
bad situation,
Me
So kind of nice that they extended him, but they didn't like mortgage their future at the same time.
That was the best.
Hopefully-
that was the best scenario.
Hopefully they can figure something out with Saquon. I think I think most people say, hey, you shouldn't pay a running back. But my thing is, I just think until your receivers get a little bit better, you need Saquon. I think if you had 2 really good receivers on the outside, you had a T. Higgins or something like that,
Right.
I could see not paying him. But right now, I just think until your receivers get better, that you need Barkley,
Right.
in my opinion.
I'm with you.
Let me ask you something, Kyle. With the Jones's contract, they kind of have like an out after 2 years. I think that's how it's read.
Mhm.
Why they should do the same thing with Barkley. Give him a contract, but have something after 2 years that they can get out where the dead money won't be so bad. That would give them a chance to build up their wide receivers if they draft a couple now and let them grow into quality players.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that, the issue with that is, like I said, they've got to do the Dexter Lawrence extension, which is not going to be cheap after what,
Payne
Simmons.
with
and
the guy from the
Simmons.
Titans.
Yeah,
Yeah, after
Simmons.
what Jeffrey Simmons got. So I believe the Giants, are kind of right around the cap room, cap limit right now. So they don't really have a ton of cap space. I think, yeah, but Adoree Jackson probably comes off the books. So they should be able to work something out with Saquon. I mean, I probably wouldn't give him more than a 3-year deal, but if you give him
Right.
a 3-year deal, maybe front load it for the first 2.
Right.
And I think,
Right.
but at the
Right.
same time, I can't blame Saquon for wanting to get
Yeah.
paid because this is probably the last time that he's going to be able to do it.
Like Jay said, Barkley wants the years of money. Unfortunately, we're not giving it to him.
Yeah,
so.
what they want's not what they're going to get, though. That's how life is.
Yep.
You
I
know,
just think that's for running backs in general. I mean, you even think
Yeah.
about like Austin Eckler, as good as he is, requesting a trade. It's like you're just not going to get anything for him.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so Jay, before we have around like 9 minutes left before we wrap up tonight. So at 25, the New York Giants are going to select. Obviously, like we mentioned throughout the whole show, we really have 3 of the biggest needs are cornerback, wide receiver, and center. You mentioned before, so did Mike, that corner might be the best way to go. I mentioned that Monday as well. Who's your favorite cornerback? Both of you guys can answer. Who's your favorite cornerback? And do you think realistically he will be there at 25 when the Giants are supposed to draft? Because they could easily trade up or trade back. It could easily happen either way at this point. I think Mark Thompson on our chat on Monday mentioned that pick 25 has been traded like recently. Like I went back and looked at it, and it was basically like it seemed like the last 4 years that the original team that had the 25th pick was traded away. So it was pretty nuts. So you're Joe Shane, pick 25, you're on the board, and there's the corner. Which corner would you be running to Cole right away if he's still on the board on the first night of the draft? You guys, one of you guys, Mike.
No,
Mike,
you go. You're the guest.
I think it depends on how much, like I said, I try to be as educated on this as possible. Do the Giants tend to play more man or do they tend to play more zone?
Well, they're more
Wink
man
likes to
now
play
because
man.
of Wink.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
more man with Wink.
Because I really like Kaylee Ringo from Georgia. He's 6'2", 207, ran a 4.36. This guy's a thumper, but
Right.
he cannot play man. He is
Right.
more
Yeah,
suited
so
for cover 3.
he's not really realistic for us right now, unfortunately.
Okay. I have concerns about Emmanuel Forbes because he's only 166 pounds, which
Right.
really makes him an outlier. So I kind of don't have him going first round. I love his tape. I love everything that he's done in college, but like 166 pounds for a defensive back. No one has played at that weight. And apparently he's up to like the mid 170s, but still until he gets above 180, it's just, I don't, there's risk in that.
Playing against men. He's going to play against men now, not kids.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I think Minnesota may go corner ahead of you. So I would say
They need it.
I think Deonte Banks would be a great fit for you guys.
I saw his name around us a lot lately. And
he's kind of rising up the boards. I would say maybe one guy to keep an eye on would be DJ Turner from Michigan. He actually had the fastest 40 time.
Mel Kiper pick right there.
Yeah,
Mel
that was
Kiper.
a Kiper. That was Kiper's latest mock for us. So
What about Cam Smith? What do you think about Cam Smith?
I like Cam Smith too.
I saw him around in the second round. So that
I'm kind of looking at Brugler's board right now. He's got him ranked 10th, which is it's pretty low. I've seen him more in the 6 to 7 range.
Wow, 10th among cornerbacks.
Yeah, he actually had his teammate Darius Rush ahead of him.
Let me tell you something. Darius Rush is a player. He is a player, and if the Giants picked him, not in the first, but they pick him, I wouldn't be unhappy.
If he becomes a Giant, we should try to get him a weekly spot on Rush.
Rush,
I would say edge and probably corner are probably the 2 deepest positions in this draft. Maybe tackle.
Wow.
In my opinion.
Huh? Okay.
Probably the 3. It's not a great safety class at all. So depending on what you're looking for there, I know you guys didn't you let was it Julian Love go?
Julian Love,
I
yeah.
liked him last year.
Yeah, we liked him
liked
too,
him too. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, the Giants definitely think they have replacements ready for him next season. But
I'm sure they're going to draft one and they got 7
They'll
picks
draft
on day 3, so I'm sure one will be a safety.
right,
Yeah, and I think that's nice too that the Giants have that in their pocket. You have all your picks for next year, and then this year you have what, an extra 5th and 2 extra 7ths, I believe.
Yeah, you know what I would like to see the Giants do with that, not to change subject, but with that safety, get a guy who can play both safety and corner in college. Give a guy who can be that versatile, and they are out there on day 3. You can get them. There's a few of them that I've been seeing, so I think that's the way to go when you go for that safety. Someone who can also play corner, so he has a speed, but he also has a little size to him.
right. And that was what Julian Love was at Notre Dame. He was with one of the top DB corners in the whole nation. His senior,
He ranked pretty well,
and then they turned him into a safety the last 2 years. So
now, not to cut you off, I have talked with Dan Schneider. Obviously Giants beat reporter from Athletic. Yeah, I mean, he really thinks that the Giants are going to get a center. So I don't know if maybe it would be Joe Tippmann or John Michael Schmitz, maybe in the 2nd round if they're there.
Right,
I wouldn't rule either of them out. I think both of them are really ready to play. I try not to helmet scout with some of these players.
Then that's the hardest thing because you see.
I tell you,
I love Wisconsin offensive linemen. I just do.
They have that tradition of having good linemen throughout their history. Just like we remember growing up, Penn State always had linebackers. I just don't think those two will be there at pick 57. I don't think they will.
Yeah, we're gonna have to be very creative with that. And
do the Bears pick in front of you or after you? Because I really think the Bears could take one of those guys in the 2nd round for sure.
Well, I think they do pick before us, and
I would assume they would have
3. Yeah, they're at 53. I would think that they're going to take a center.
Yeah, you would make sense, right? To help Fields out, right?
Or possibly Seattle, and they have 2 2nd-round picks ahead of you too.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think center position gets overlooked, but I think the kids like Patterson and Stromberg and the kid out of Michigan, who has another name hard to pronounce, I think they're good, all good quality players who can be solid.
Oh, you're talking about Olawatimi?
Yeah, Olawatimi. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
He was didn't he win the Outland trophy this year for the best lineman?
So
they're just worried that he's not, if he's not in the right system, one-on-one battles, he may have problems in the NFL. I don't know that, but I just think for the value, you get a 4th round on him, and that's not bad value. Him, Stromberg, and Patterson, if those other top 3 centers are gone.
Right. Yeah. That's another Nigerian American player that. So that we have a lot of Nigerian players in the NFL, and that we need to brush up on our dialect so we can pronounce these names.
Dan does it the simple way. He goes by initials.
Yeah, I went strictly initials, for sure. So before we wrap up, thanks again, Kyle, for coming on. We really appreciate it. We should definitely talk again sometime. Give us a lowdown where to find you, what to expect coming out the next couple of days.
Yeah, so I have, like I said, my final mock draft coming out here probably in the next 2 weeks. Just doing a lot of stuff, related to the rookie class, and probably doing that probably through May. Then I say once June kind of rolls around, be focusing more on fantasy football, getting ready for the season. So
yeah, we should definitely get you on.
Yeah, Twitter, football. Same as here. Luck is made FF. So with Rotoballer. So got plenty of Twitter content coming out. You have any questions, you always ever want to talk ball, right. I'm always down.
Yeah, our Wednesday night show Rush Hour, we're actually focusing on fantasy more this year, so we would love to have you guys on.
Absolutely.
Kyle, where can they find your mock draft? Where would you have it so they can see it?
Oh, it would. So it's on my Twitter, and then I have my link tree in there. So
okay, there you go.
So the link in my bio basically has all my
Perfect.
workouts.
I'll tweet out his link tree later.
Yeah, I'd
tonight.
like to see a mock draft. I'd like to see that. That'd be fun.
Okay. Appreciate
So
that.
once again, thank you guys for joining us. We talked about the defensive ends and interior linemen. Once again, thanks Kyle for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun.
Have a great night, guys. Thanks for coming, and let's go Giants.
Go Giants.
Take care, guys.